Hey everybody, this is Jim from MusicPlayers.com saying hi to you again. We're at the Slate Digital, Slate Media booth at NAMM 2016. We're talking to Jesse. We got a lot of great things to discuss. He does. We love Slate's products, and we want to give him a chance to talk about some really exciting things. And we'll just turn it over to you, Jesse.
Oh, thanks. So yeah, we have all of our stuff here with us at NAMM. We're very excited about all of it. You know,
If you need anything clarified on the Slate control, just let me know.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I'll definitely throw it over here. This is Paul Wolf, who designed the Slate control.
Hello.
Yeah, so the VMS is basically starting to roll off the production line, which is very exciting for us. I work on the hardware team with Erica, and we built a really, really flat frequency response and wide dynamic range microphone and a similar preamp. It's just about as flat and neutral and transparent as you can get, and still manages to just take all of the information coming into it and put it straight through to your workstation with almost no filtering or coloration at all. Then we send that over to the software team, and our software team is, I think, the best. I'm not really a software, I do all the hardware stuff with Erica, so you go over to the software guys, and these guys just blow my mind. They're great. And
Just to clarify, if you guys don't know, the VMS is a virtual miking system that Slate's coming out with, and Fabrice kind of is heading up that software team.
Yeah, Fabrice and a lot of our guys over here as well. And so we send it over to them, and then they develop emulations that are a lot deeper than a lot of other emulations go. They're not just modeling the frequency response, but they're modeling the harmonic response and the phase response, and how all those characteristics interact, which is, I think, what a lot of people miss about how these things work. You know, a 1073 isn't just an EQ curve, because it's nonlinear in a lot of really subtle ways. So we send it over to them, and then they sweep everything, and we put it all together. And then once you're using our virtual mix rack, which is like the only plug-in system I use now, because I just like the way it looks and I love the way it sounds.
On every mix. It's on every mix.
I got rid of everything else. It's great. And then you can just say, I'll use the 47, I'll use the 251, or the ones it comes with right now, the 47, the 251, and the C800, 1073 or V76 preamp. And the other bundles are coming out as expansion packs to eventually have everything, and eventually have all kinds of really cool stuff. And I really love it, not only just because it allows people to have things they might not otherwise have access to, is that so many people do production work these days where you're not necessarily sure where something is going to go. I mean, I grew up engineering in small rock and roll studios, and you kind of know what it's going to sound like because you see the band and you hear the band, you're like, this is what it is. So you can make a great choice about a microphone because you can see it in front of you and you can hear what it's doing and you can get it. But the way production work works these days, you don't always know what's going to happen. It might go from being an acoustic guitar jam one day, they want to use that same vocal with a piano mix or with a different kind of thing, and being able to continually update your choices based on what's going on currently, I think is an amazing option. It's, to me, that's one of the most powerful things about it, is that all the way at mix you can say, I'm changing everything, I realize now what it should be, or I'm doing a different mix for a different thing. It's great. And it works, and it's rolling off the production line now, and so I'm just really excited about it.
Awesome. And you also want to talk a little bit about Slate Control, getting in that interfaces with the Raven.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Slate Control is the thing I'm the most excited about. I worked with Paul in the development of it and with Erica building it, and I grew up working on consoles, and a lot of the facilities of a large format console monitor section are really important to doing a really good job in making a record and helping you understand what you're doing and just helping you make decisions and facilitate other people's decisions. And a lot of monitor controllers, I don't think I shouldn't say it that way. We sat down and we said, we want to do the best one. We want to basically pull the guts out of the large format console everybody wishes they had, put it in a box, stick it in a rack, and sell it to people. And it comes either installed in our Raven desk or you can use a desktop. It's got everything that everybody would want it to have. The main volume knob is a resistor ladder, which everybody knows sounds best, but it's always sometimes hard to implement in design. So Paul came up with an ingenious way of using control voltage to control a network of relays that put the resistor ladder about this far away from your I/O. Like, where the signal comes into the rack unit, where it goes out, it's nothing. And all of the design principles that he's learned from everything he's ever built, all of which sounds good, he just boiled into this thing. And, we sit there and make it work. It's, it follows the pattern of our previous monitor controller where it's got the D sub in for the eight outputs from your workstation. going straight pass through to a queue system. So it'll function equally well with a private queue style system or an Aviom style system, as well as with just a local headphone amp or with a little A/B mix. I mean, people used to just use small portable mixers as headphone mixers. You can send all of that there. You can control everything. You can get Talkback to it. The 8 input sources are also selectable for the local headphones, selectable for the QAB outputs. It's got an internal Talkback, facilities for an external Talkback. It's got a reverse Talkback, which tons of people ask for, and was a feature on a few large format consoles, and I think maybe 1 or 2 digital control services, but it's not a feature in wide use. And that's just a thing where when you hit Talkback and your speakers dim, it injects a signal coming to you from a microphone out in the live room that you put out there.
You're saying all that's in this?
Yeah.
Okay, want to get a quick look? I mean, so it sounds like it'd be a lot bigger, right?
It took me a long time to get everything in there, but Paul insisted that we stuff it all in there.
Okay.
Cool features that other things don't have. The dim is fully scalable. So, when you hit dim, if I have it up here, it's not dimming. If I have it up here, it's all the way off. So whatever kind of style I like or whatever mood I'm in, sometimes you're just using dim to talk to the guy next to you. Sometimes you need to use it as a cut switch. It's got features like, cut left and cut right, so that you can just listen to what the left is doing, just listen to what the right is doing. A lot of people do that. Paul's mono button is in the right place in the circuit, so that, some monitor controllers, if you do this, you'll only hear the left speaker, but in the left channel in both speakers. It's not really what you want if you're trying to do like mono style mix.
You want a true mono mix.
Yeah, so if I do this, I'm listening to a mono sum in the left speaker. A thing you can do that's really cool is left polarity. That's on a lot of large format consoles, but not on a lot of monitor controllers. Flips the phase of your left speaker so that you can check to see if anything is out of phase in your mix. Handy then when you combine it with the mono button, because all you're hearing now is the width information in mono. So you can quickly see what's going on the sides of my mix. Sometimes it's hard to know unless you can get rid of the center. So there you go, center gone. Because of the really clever way Paul used this voltage, you can actually duplicate this pot almost as many times as you want with a couple of switches. So you hit Cal, and this tiny little pot replaces this, and you have another level control. So different people would use this different ways. A lot of film people, a lot of scoring people like to monitor at very specific decibel levels because it's important to know really what's going to go on in the theater. So you could use a meter and a scope and set this to a very, very specific level so that, minus 10 here, is exactly what it is. So you set this to there, and then you can always get back to that level. Some people just like to use it as like a casual reference level.
Well, that's great because I use an SPL meter all the time. During the day, I'm always I'm like taking this stupid thing out, I'm sitting in the center. That'd be great.
Yeah, you're fine. So additionally, some people just like to have a level they like, so when other engineers are working with them and want to mess around with the volume knob, you don't ever have to worry that you're going to lose your spot, Programmable cue selection, or programmable talkback selections, just like would be on a large format console. I can send my cue to A, B, C, D, local headphones, or I can slate them and send them everywhere. Independent levels for the talkback and the reverse talkback. It's got an auto talkback feature if you like.
How does that work?
The auto talkback feature is the thing they used to put on consoles that got a lot of people in a lot of trouble, but it's handy when you're doing the kind of production work people do now. What happens is you feed a little bit of tone to this thing from your workstation, and whenever there's tone playing, the talkback is off. As soon as the tone stops, the talkback turns on. This is really handy if you're a person who often is like behind the console trying to play bass and engineer and talk to a singer and get this whole thing done. And that happens more and more the way people make records these days. That's why this feature is kind of making a comeback. The reason they got rid of it initially, as a side note, is that producer's sitting on the couch, you're the engineer, band is out there playing, band stops playing, talkback comes up, and the producer goes, "Oh, I hated that drummer," or whatever, And so,
what the hell were they thinking when they sang that show? Oh, hi.
One of my first days ever working in a room that had an SSLJ was with a mentor of mine who worked at the studio all the time. And I was like, oh my God, I've never seen a J before. I'm so excited to work on it. I wanted to touch every button. And he said, you can touch any button you want except the auto talkback button. Never touch that button. But I think it is really handy for the way people make records today. It's like a feature that never served its original purpose very well, but these days is really handy.
And I'm thinking too, like not to but like Avid, what they were doing with Pro Tools everywhere, and how they're trying to get a lot of that remote stuff going on. I have clients that live in the Bay Area. My studio's in Arizona. We're trying to do remote work. and I can see what you're saying. Like I'm talking to her, and so I'm gonna hear this guitar part, and she's singing, and I'm trying to. So that kind of thing would really be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, you can, and the handy thing about when you build a piece of gear this well and this flexible, you can repurpose it for a lot of different stuff. So like today I'm using the SLS to drive our PA system, and I can have a different signal sending there than I send to our mains here that were loaned to us by Oceanway, just so you can start to see how when you get real pieces of hardware and you put all the I/O on them and you get it all working, you can do a lot more than you can do with a limited amount. You can really, it sounds cheesy to say, but you can really start to express yourself when you have really powerful tools. I mean, that's why people used to like to work at big studios with big consoles, because you can do anything. Like one of the things I like to do with this is a lot of singers these days are used to having their own mix, right, for their headphones, and that's important so they can hear what they're doing and feel what they're doing. Sometimes, though, you need that singer to hear the way the mix is, the way you're mixing it. And without having to change a bunch of stuff around, I can just go, okay, now you're hearing my mix. Okay, now you're hearing your mix. All right, now you're hearing the drummer's mix. Whatever. That kind of stuff is really important.
How many mixes could you get with that, like simultaneously?
So the system will do 4 different stereo inputs from your DAW without any extra modifications or tweaking. So depending on what other stuff you wanted to do, you could very easily just kind of make it whatever you want. Some people like to use mix 1 for themselves, mix 2 for the artist, and then use Q, A, B, C, D as pass-throughs for more me. So you have like kind of an instrumental mix here, different vocalists or different instrumentalists here, so they can add more of themselves. Some people like to do a dedicated artist mix on this, have 2 different flavors of stereo bus. Let's say you duplicate your stereo bus inside your workstation, you do like a vintage style bus compression on one, more modern style on the other. Now instead of having to like mute, do like a bunch of mouse clicks to get it done, you do it like you would on a console where you go, what does this sound like? What does that sound like? I know a lot of people like to record their mix back into their workstation. That's like a popular thing to do. I do that. And so then you have your mix sitting there. Well, when you have a system like this, you send your mix output to mix 2. You send your stereo bus output to mix 1, so that as you're tweaking your revisions, you can just go, what did my other mix sound like? What does this sound like? Oh, here you go. Oh, there you go. And the kind of stuff that I think if you've worked on a large format console, you start to take for granted, that you can just like do a lot of things really fast without having to interrupt your audio listening. I heard once that, this might not be true, but I heard once that your actual auditory memory is about 3 seconds. Everything after that is conjecture. So you're remembering how you felt about it, but not necessarily how it sounded. And both those things are very important, but that's one of the reasons why I like systems like this, because rather than have to like mute the one bus, then move my mouse over, unmute the other, even though it seems like a very small amount of time, that little bit of like audio darkness can influence how you feel about the other thing. And also there have been bugs in your workstation where you're not necessarily hearing what you think you're hearing.
I could also think of that, like just off the top of my head, that could help with ear fatigue issues. Because I mean, as the day goes on, let's face it, you start to lose, things start to get louder.
Handy thing about using the cowpot as a standard mix level. So let's say I set this for where my general mix level is. I can check at the end of the day and see how much louder I'm monitoring than how much I usually monitor, and it's no longer conjecture. It's no longer look at the knob, look at this, feel that. I know how much louder I want it to sound. I just really like repeatable stuff like that. The B speakers and the C speakers have trim, so that like on large format consoles, you can say, oh, I want these to feel a little this way, these to feel a little this way. Each speaker can talk to the LFE or not, switchable on the front panel, so you don't have to program it. So let's say on your mains, you generally like them flat because they're really nice speakers, or they go down low. On your B speakers, usually you like to have your sub because they're your like NS10 style speakers, and you like to extend it a little bit. And then your clients show up and they say, oh, play it big. And then you just add the low end to your A, but you don't have to have that all day. The low end is managed really well on the back. There's a trim pot for it. There's 2 selectable crossover points. There's a low pass filter and a phase flip, so that inside of this unit you can just manage your sub. Things that sometimes you take for granted, but not everybody has these features on their gear, in their rig at home. So I like to give them these features whenever possible.
That sounds great. I hear you, because
I covered all that. There's a little cute USB hub on the front that Paul tied into the really nice power supply of this thing, so it'll charge your phone really fast just by plugging into it, even if you don't have the USB connected. And then you can also connect the USB and use it like a little handy desktop hub for like your iLock. You have clients coming in with your iLock. The assistant always has to walk around to the machine room and get everything in. People forget it, whatever. Now you just stick it in here, you're fine. Now you just don't have to do things a silly way anymore. The 1/8 inch input is right on the top, so you can just plug your phone in. It's fine.
I'll tell you though, what'll happen is that'll get hijacked by a client. Hey, dude, can I plug into your,
And also, because the local headphones are independently selectable, client can be sitting next to you and they want to search for something on their iPod, so you just hand them the headphones. Now I've selected the 1/8 inch input here, and so they can sit there and listen to their iPod all day. I can work. I don't have to stop what I'm doing. Conversely, if the client wants to listen to their iPod over the mains and you're getting the session ready for the next session or for the next mix you're working on, you can put the local headphones to the mix, set the control room to the 1/8 inch input. Now your clients can be happy and listen to music. They don't have to listen to you editing vocals. But you can have a minute of privacy to edit vocals. They can watch YouTube on the big screen.
Maybe they don't want to hear me editing their vocals. Like, I sounded like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever these things are. It's just the flexibility will allow you to discover more about your own work.
Oh, that sounds great, man.
I could talk about this thing.
Yeah, believe me, I'm probably going to say turn it off and we'll keep going, right?
The other thing is we have the new cool gunmetal gray side panels for the MTX. So this thing can be standalone, or it can be in an MTX, or it can be inside of our Z3. One of the reasons it's cool to have it standalone is because you can get it with one of our smaller new MTI2s. The MTI2 just came out. You should talk to Matt Dodge about those, or to Erica probably. It's $9.99. It's like the price of a regular monitor, but you get touchscreen, you get the Raven software, you get the Batch Commander, you get like so much cool stuff just by moving to this platform that saves you so much time and gets you off the keyboard and mouse. I mean, one of my favorite new expressions is like the remote control for a Studer 827 is not a typewriter, and for good reason, because we're a specialized industry doing specialized things and we need specialized tools. And I feel like the fact that we've all been kind of hijacked by the keyboard and mouse never ceases to bum me out. Even like, I started working for Slate and I immediately embraced this. I immediately embraced even workstations more than I used to, because this gives me back what I used to have by working on a console. And I was like a holdout sticking to my tape machine for a really long time because I don't want to do this. That's not why I got into the music business.
It's probably better for your wrists and avoiding carpal tunnel.
Yeah, and also it's like, I don't want the measure of how good of an engineer I am to be how many key commands I can remember. I want it to be how good my records sound, and I want to focus on making good sounding records. And the less I have to worry about being fast, with all these, I remember, key commands that are this big, then everybody's like, look at my cool move. It's like, okay, I'll just do it with one button in the Batch Commander, and then I'll spend the extra 5 seconds listening to the record.
For someone who already has, say, like an Argosy desk, okay, can they be modded, or, because I think this is a proprietary desk just for the Raven, but let's say you wanted to just get this piece.
So Paul designed it really clever to be the size of a vintage fader bucket. So if you have an old console and your center section is a mess, which as a guy who used to repair old consoles for a living, I can tell you they all are, you can dump this in there. It's actually got a secret solo bus that he hasn't told anybody about yet, because it ties to the modular console he's building for it. But you could just drop this into a desk of a console and essentially have a new console. You could also, because it's got a cute, like it pops out, so because it's got a cute little lip on there, you could just cut a hole this size in any piece of furniture you want and drop it right in. The way the cabling mounts is really flexible, so that you can get it into the most kind of spaces. It shouldn't be hard to mount in anything you want, and it also doesn't even look bad sitting on the desktop. It's that big, it's about that deep, the control head, and then it ties to the rack unit. And since very little of the audio actually travels through the head unit, you can, we ship it I think with a 25-foot cable, and you could probably get a 50-foot cable. I'd reserve some testing to tell you if you could have a 100-foot cable, but just like in a real studio, you can locate all your audio connections over there, tie them to the bay with very short cables, and still be able to have your control over here. I don't know. I don't never understand. Having to go over to the rack to adjust my speaker volume.
I understand. I'm always, for me, I'm reaching. Right now, I'm using dangerous stuff. No, well, that's not mine. It's yours. But
I think I saw Nick come back, and you guys were
oh, okay. Well, let me.
You should talk to us.
All right.
Very interesting people.
Yeah.
You should talk to Nick and Erica and Matt Dodge.
Okay, we could probably do that. Yeah. Well, let me sign off this one, and then we can go to another one. Is that cool?
Right, thanks for chatting.
All right, hey man, everybody, Jesse, right? Thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. We had a really nice talk about what they're doing, some of their hardware stuff, and how that interfaces obviously with a console. Someone who's trying to no longer use maybe a big desk, but they're using a DAW, and This is a great unit. We got a lot of great information. We also got a little bit about their VMS. So thanks, and we might hear some more later. But this is Jim from Music Player saying thanks, guys, and I hope you enjoyed that. A lot of great information. Delve into it, rewind, listen again if there's something you thought you missed. Have a good one.